they read and write quickly? The World Bank, the World Development Report uses grade 2 as the period that they look at. But really, if our children can learn as early as grade 1 to read, they will really be helpful. It will be very helpful for them. Okay? And so what does the data tell us? Are children reading and writing and doing arithmetic in 3 hours by the time they get to grade 2, the end of grade 2? And the World Development Report data from all the years that they've looked at suggests that this is not necessarily so. So if you take a look at the left side, the blue graph, this is the level of, let me see, reading. A grade 2 child who cannot read a single word or a short text. Now, they took data from a number of countries all over the world. So they show the data here is largely for Africa, but there's Nepal here, and then there's also India. And you can see that 100% is at the top, and then you can see that the blue bar gets lower and lower. The lowest on this particular graph is Jordan. And you can see that Jordan, only about 10% or a little more than 10% of the children are able to read by the time they get to grade 2. Now Jordan is an extreme case because Jordan has one of the world's largest refugee populations in the world. So many of those kids are actually not able to go to school. On the right side, the green, are the number of grade 2 students who cannot perform two-digit subtraction. And again, you can see that quite a number of kids all over the world. You can actually get this, if you take a look at this, you can open it on the, you can Google it and get the World Bank, the World Development Report. You can actually see it for your country. Part of the learning crisis is that if you don't learn to read and do your arithmetic, your 3 hours early, then as you get into the higher primary and the high school years, it gets worse and worse because it will have a compounding effect. Those who have difficulty reading will have more difficulty reading at a higher level, will have more difficulty doing math at a higher level. Okay, so if students get left behind and don't catch up early, no remediation, no remedial, then it will get worse and worse every year. And you can see that in the data here, again, is limited. In this particular case, it's to New Delhi in India. If you look at the line, the diagonal line, that is the grade level, grade 6, grade 7, grade 8, grade 9. All right? So what you have here is grade 6, grade 7, grade 8, grade 9, and that is the level that if you were learning it properly, that's where the child should be as they go from year to year. What's happening is actually they are learning at this level. So at grade 6, the level of average learning of the kids in New Delhi at this point is they're learning at slightly more than grade 3. And by the time they get to grade 9 here, you find that the average is only around grade 4.5 with reference to math. This is for English here. This broken line is for the brightest kids in that cohort. So it's not much better than the average kids. Now, this is for New Delhi. Again, you can find it for your country. But what the World Development Report says is that this is coming out to be the sample around the world when they take a look at different countries. Some are better than others. Who gets left behind? So the percentage of kids in primary who are able to pass a minimal competency at the threshold, at the grade level that they're in. This is what it looks like. And this data here is now done by region. Okay, it's done by region. So what you have on the left side are the regions, and so what we can do is, on the left side is by income. So if we are, most of us in ASEAN, we are lower middle income or higher middle income here. All right. The blue is for math and the green is for reading. Okay. So you can see the math is much lower, only about less than 40% are picking it up in math, and only about 30% for reading. This is by region, and so we are in East Asia, so this is where we are here, the second group. Again, you can see that it is well below 100%. Okay. So, this is the crisis. These are what the numbers are telling us. And so the question is, why is this so? And one of the difficulties is it's not easy to see. Many times it's hidden. Many times this low learning we don't see. And the reason why we don't see it is because many of us who in education, we were always focused on getting kids to school. We thought that if we could get kids to school, that would solve the problem. And we are very successful at getting kids to school. Many of our education systems are now almost near 100% getting kids to school. Okay, we do have dropouts. That is always going to be the case. And some countries will have more dropouts than other countries. But in general, at grade 1, we're getting most of our kids to school. And we thought that we were solving the problem. So if we think we're solving the problem, in fact the problem is hidden. It's what we say, it's necessary to bring kids to school, but it's not sufficient for them to be learning. The question then is, what should we be doing? Class time is not necessarily productive learning time all the time. The other part of this is, from the point of view of teachers, we have to ask ourselves the question, does everything that we do in the classroom, does that constitute learning time? So when you think about the activities that you do with your children in the classroom, so say you're with them so many hours a day, or the subject is 40 minutes or 50 minutes, how much of the 40 or 50 minutes that you are devoting to math, or devoting to language, or devoting to whatever subject you're teaching is really productive work in terms of what these kids are doing, or is it busy work? The kids are busy, but are they busy on learning activity, or are they busy just to be busy? Oh, you just want to keep them occupied. And many times this is what happens in classrooms, especially classrooms where you have a lot of children. So in the Philippines, for example, it's not uncommon for a teacher to have 45, 50, even 60 students in a class. When you have that many students in a class, how do you pay attention to everybody? What happens is the teachers give them busy work and say, okay, you keep yourself occupied and let the time go. And you think that that's learning. Sometimes also what happens is teachers will focus on the brighter kids, right? They will focus on those who are the fast learners because they're the easy ones. They're the ones who are most, put it this way, they cause the less problems in the class. So what happens is if you do that, then what happens is you end up ignoring the ones who really need the help. And this will compound the problem. Okay? Let me, okay, so there are 4 things that we take a look at how to address this particular dilemma. Okay, so we take a look at how prepared are learners. Number one, how prepared or how skilled are teachers? Yourselves. Number three is, are the school inputs, are they aligned with the learning? Or, I'll say something a little bit about each of these. And the last one is about school management. What are the incentives for teachers so that the teachers are doing things that will actually contribute to the learning? Okay, and I'll spend the time talking about each of these factors. And then as we talk of each of these factors, I'll try to weave in the stories of some of our PMCA awardees from 2015, right? So that it shows you, gives you a little bit of a picture, puts a face to what we're talking about. Okay? So, first factor is unprepared learners. Are the learners actually, when they come to school at a very young age, are they prepared to learn? And many times, well, in some countries, the conditions are good, but in other countries, for example, in the Philippines, in many, very, very rural areas, the children come to school. They have to walk very far to come to school. Many times they come to school without having had breakfast. Or they don't have proper nutrition. So when they come, are they really prepared to sit down in class for a long period of time and to begin to start listening to things and doing things? All right? Are parents involved? If parents are not involved, then many times the kids are left to their own devices. Okay? Is the environment good? Many times we have, in the Philippines, for example, we have rural schools that still don't have electricity or still don't have water. And so when you think about all of this, it adds to the conditions around which a school and a child can learn properly. Right? So we think of also the hidden costs to schooling. The example here is William Moraca in the Philippines, the teacher from 2015, who put together, school didn't have water, didn't have electricity, and so what they did was, using a homegrown engineering talent, they put together a wind turbine to provide electricity. They were off the grid, so they were not connected to the electric cooperative or the electric company. So they had to produce their own electricity. They used a wind turbine to do that. They also put together a water system to bring water, to pump the water from the ground very far away from the schools, to bring it up to the schools so that he could provide water. We have the same for this second round, right? Leo in Timor-Leste is doing that. You heard her story yesterday and what she's doing there to bring water to the school, among other things. So you create these conditions so that the kids come to school and also the parents will be involved in the school. And if they're involved in the school, you know that they're going to support the learning process. The second part of that also, are they prepared? Do they have the good foundation in the 3 R's? You need to have good foundation because when you go up into the higher grades, without that foundation, you're going to have difficulty, especially if you can't read properly and you can't do your arithmetic properly. Okay, so reading and writing at level is important. Learning the 4 operations of arithmetic is important. When you put the 2 together, reading, writing, and the 4 operations of arithmetic, this is what we call functional literacy. And functional literacy, for those of us in management later on, when we're hiring and training people, those who have good functional literacy skills are also going to be the ones who are going to be more trainable, so to speak. Okay? And that means that they're able to follow verbal and written instructions well. Okay, so this is Julio from Timor-Leste, and what he's doing in the elementary school. And he doesn't have a lot of technology in his school. Timor-Leste is still very much a developing country. And so even just a thing like Blackboard is something which is a luxury. Now, all the classrooms don't have it. So one of the things that Julio put together is this box here, and it's basically a box with sand, and the sand becomes the blackboard. You write on the sand, and when you've written on the sand, then you just make it clear, or you just make it smooth again, and then you write on it again, right? So this becomes the blackboard for them. So simple technology like that. Okay, the second factor has to do with teachers. How important are teachers to the process? Well, as you know, they're very important. And there have been measures. And one way of measuring it is to take a look at what is the impact on the students. There have been cases, and this is a particular case done in the United States, where they look at what is the impact of good teachers on the learning levels of students. And one of the things they found out when they did case studies was they said that good teachers are able to get the children not only to complete the curriculum for the given year, but even to go beyond the curriculum. So what happens is, in the United States, they have things that are called advanced placement, but they also cover a lot more material outside the curriculum. Good teachers are able to cover more than the curriculum. In fact, they cover 1.5 times, as high as 1.5 times more than the curriculum for the year, by giving extra work, by doing extra assignments, and so on. By contrast, bad teachers, or not good teachers, not skilled teachers, will cover around half the curriculum. So there's a big gap. 1.5 of the curriculum versus half the curriculum. So good teachers will make a difference. They make a big, big difference. The other thing that we take a look at is time on task. How much time? Okay, a teacher has to be in the classroom X amount of time, right? How much of that time is spent, how much of the time they're actually present in the classroom, and how much of the time that they are present in the classroom are they actually doing teaching or something related to learning? Okay, and the data, again from the World Development Report, says that the first, okay, these are different countries here, but in this set you now have Laos, PDR, you've got Cambodia, among the ASEAN countries, okay? Most of them again are African countries. The first bar here is the amount of time the teacher has as a teacher, 100% of the time, right? The second bar is how much of the time are they present inside the classroom? Actually present in the classroom, not doing something else outside, okay? And the third bar is how much of the time is spent doing actual teaching, learning work. And you can see that it goes down. Okay? What we try to do is, we try to understand why can't it be as close to 100% as possible. So time on task is what we take a look at. Then we have misaligned inputs. Okay? And many times the inputs that are provided by the Ministry of Education or the Department of Education, you have it in the budget, it may actually be procured, but it might not be delivered. So the textbooks might have been bought, but they're not in the classroom. Laboratory materials may have been bought, but they're not present in the classroom. Okay? And in the Philippines, and I'll use the Philippines as the example because that's what I'm familiar with, there are instances where even chalk is not available. There is a chalk allowance for teachers, but it does not necessarily mean that the chalk is in the pocket of the teachers. But if you don't have chalk and you have a blackboard, how do you write on the blackboard? Right? Then you have cases where you may have inputs, but the inputs are not aligned with the learning objectives. Okay, so or you may have things that have been procured. So we have instances where we have procured computers, but we also have not provided instruction to the teachers on how to productively use the computers. So what happens is it ends up sitting or being wasted or not being utilized properly. Okay, so we also have to think about whether our inputs are really put in place properly, or can be used productively. Then you've got fourth factor, which has to do with school leadership. And here, the report talks about school leadership not necessarily being aligned with what's happening in the classroom. Okay? And the question here then is, what then are school heads doing? Well, part of the problem might be that the school heads want to teach. The teachers want to teach, but the school heads need to report to the Ministry of Education or to the Department of Education. So what happens is the bureaucracy will then tell the teachers, you have to fill out these forms, you have to do these things, you have to follow these instructions. And what happens is, instead of focusing on the teaching, learning aspect of the classroom, the teachers have to spend time on the bureaucratic practices. Filling out the reports, filing them on time, making presentations so that the bosses up top know what's going on. It takes time away from what you do in the classroom. So compliance becomes what the teachers are expected to do rather than focus on the learning. And the evaluation of teachers is based on the reports that they produce and not on the outcomes, the student outcomes, the learning outcomes. Misalignment of the goals and the objectives and the incentives. Teachers are rewarded for the wrong things, so they will practice what they're rewarded. Okay, so how do we respond? And here we can respond three ways. We can respond by taking a look at assessment. Assessment can help us understand what's happening, the action, so that we can do something about it, and then the alignment, so that as we go from level to level, there is consistency in all of this. Okay, so in terms of assessment, how robust or healthy is the process of assessing the learning process in school? So can we measure? And remember, in management, the field that I'm in, it's very hard to fix the problem if you can't measure it. You want to measure something because it will tell you, more or less, how far are you deviating from where you want to be. So if you are in the teaching, education process, and you want children to move to this level, how far are you from achieving any of that? The only way to know that is to measure. And that's why assessment is important for us. And we assess it, and we talk about a number of different levels. Okay? And we ask ourselves in the classroom, when we do the assessment, who of our children are falling behind? And if they are falling behind, where are they falling behind? How far are they falling behind? And what can we do about that? Okay? And this is where we begin to start thinking about what's the pedagogy and what are the processes that will help our kids able to address all of that. Okay, so here's the importance of measurement. The question that was asked is, what percentage of primary school students are able to pass a minimum proficiency level? And in this particular case, they looked at the late primary school years. This is grade 5 and grade 6. How many of the children are able to pass the grade 5 and the grade 6 proficiency levels? Right? And here, what it shows us from the data, again, it's very large-scale data. There are two sets here. On the left side is by income. So again, we can take a look for ASEAN, we're mostly in lower middle income and upper middle income. And you can see that 100% is up here, and this is for math, and the blue is for math, and the green is for reading. And you can see that for math, at this level, for upper middle income, it's only about 65%. less than 60%. Sorry. Yes, less than 60%. Sorry, less than 70%. Between 70 and 60% for math. Okay, and for reading, it's maybe about 75%. For the lower middle income countries in ASEAN, it's even lower. It's down here. All right. As a group, this is where we are for East Asia. Okay? We're the second group. Okay? So you can see that we have quite a ways to go. That's what the assessment is. Okay? This is what assessment does for us. It will allow us to identify, and we can measure. It tells us what the gap is like. And what's most important is when we know what the gap is, we can then identify, we can even drill it down to what are the least learned competencies or skills. So it's possible in math that there's a list of competencies and skills, and we can find which ones are the ones that the children are having difficulty with, and then we can focus. With reference to assessments, there are different types of assessments. There are screening tests, there are learning assessments, which are done at the classroom level. There are formal assessments, examinations, and such. But there are also projects. Projects are ways by which the demonstration of what the children are doing and what they're learning. Okay? There are different types of assessments, international assessments. You're familiar with PISA. PISA is quite a robust one. Thankfully, the Philippines is getting back to doing PISA testing. You know, we're going to do PISA testing for the first time. We're getting back to doing TIMS. You know, we made a mistake quite some time ago where the policymakers in the government said, let's not bother getting involved in international testing because we don't do so well in those international tests. We would just embarrass ourselves. Well, those tests are important because they provide benchmarks. They show us where we are versus others in the world. The one who's been very successful, they joined PISA the last round was Vietnam. And Vietnam joined for the first time and actually scored very well. And that surprised a lot of people. So now a lot of people are looking at Vietnam to say, what did Vietnam do? Or what's Vietnam doing that allows them to do so well? Okay. PEARLS is an English language test. Right? There are grassroots assessments, but they're more difficult to do. The one country that does it very well is India. India has a grassroots assessment test called ASER. And what they do is they go and take a look at grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, grade 5, grade 6 children. And they do a random survey, household survey, where they actually go and they test. And they do this all over the country, all over India. And they're able to pinpoint it down to cities. Which cities are scoring to a point today that cities and states are now competing among themselves to see who scores best in ASER. That's a good test to take a look at, but a very difficult test to administer. Okay, so what do we want to take a look at? One is we want to take a look at reading levels. We want to take a look at math levels to determine who are competent, who are not competent, who are falling farther behind. We want to take a look at the global experience because we want to compare. It's important to be able to get a sense of what others are doing. Then we want to take a look at where are kids falling behind and where are the compounding effects, because if we don't catch it early, it will get worse and worse as we go along. What are the actions to take? We want to act on evidence. Okay, maybe I'll skip this. These are just some of the questions. You know, are there foundational shortcomings that need to be addressed? Is this a problem of just a few kids? Or is this a problem of many, many kids? If it's a problem of many kids, then the question of are the teachers